It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. 8 years I've been on this program, giving you my expert opinion on the real estate market based on my experiences as somebody that's been in the top 1% of agents in this market since 2009, and now the 1% of agents both here in the Carolinas and nationally. So I share with you what I'm experiencing on my end as I go through my day job of helping people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. And then I share my experiences with you so that you're a more prepared and informed consumer. I talk a lot on this show about what's happening in the market, prepare you for the road ahead if you're considering buying, selling, or investing, and then I just educate you on the process. I really help you understand how our industry works. You know, the folks that have worked with me really have a good understanding of how things are going to happen, how things take shape, what you should expect. Not just in the form of market dynamics, but the relationship that you have with your real estate agent, which is incredibly important. So over the course of the next hour, we're really going to talk about what's happening in the market right now. What do I think is going to happen here in the next year or so? What do we think the market's going to look like this year toward the end of it? What's going to happen in summer of next year? Are we creating this bubble, and is this bubble going to burst? Are prices going to start going down? Differing opinions on that subject. We're going to talk about the few different angles on that. And then we're going to talk about preparing your home for sale, how you as a buyer can win in this market right now, and a few other things along the way. So if you'd like to reach out to me, you want to learn more about my team working with me individually to help you buy, sell, or invest in real estate, feel free to give me a call. You can call or text 843-400-8009. That's my personal cell, 843-400-8009. Or you can visit us online. Listingsincharleston.com is our website, listingsincharleston.com. Learn more about our team and who we are and what we do and what we sell, how we sell it. Listen to the radio show that we've been, again, on the air for 8 years now. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, all that fun stuff. And, of course, you can find out more about what your home is worth, learn how to sell your home on your own, get an offer from us, or learn how to renovate your home for profit. All at listingsincharleston.com. So let's dive right into this. You know, are we in a bubble? You know, as summer is, you know, we're right in the middle of the throes of summer. As fall approaches, what can we expect to happen? What's been happening across the country, and how does that relate to us here in Charleston? So if you look at the markets across the country, I mean, they have proven to be incredibly resilient due to the economic fallout of the coronavirus. And yes, home sales and closings certainly dipped in April, May, and to an extent June. But home prices have actually gone up in many areas of the country. And so with this virus showing no signs of letting up, and with, you know, so much for the heat killing the coronavirus, I don't know what happened to that, but it is hot here in Charleston, and it almost seems like it's helping the virus spread. I don't know. But when we look at, you know, the fact that this virus is just, it's here to stay for a while, or at least so we think. Who knows? Maybe it'll be one of those instances where it just disappears in November. I wouldn't be surprised, quite frankly. But I also know that there are real issues as it relates to the coronavirus, and people that are close to me have experienced deaths that were from people that were close to them, and so it is a real thing. But when we get back to what's going on in this market and what we think this market's going to look like, say, this time next year, you've got differing opinions. You've got some people that say, well, you know, we've got a lot of pent-up demand right now, which is why things are so good, but things are going to taper off, and then maybe they spike back up, maybe they go down. All of that's, of course, dependent upon interest rates and government policy, but let's kind of unpackage that a little bit. And, you know, let's talk about some of the government programs as well that have really helped create the economic stimulus needed to keep this market afloat. And so, you know, I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and that's, I think, that is the buzzword of 2020 is uncertainty. I mean, you hear it in every commercial, you watch or read or hear. But But when you look at things like the mortgage market, there are a lot of concerns. There is a lot of uncertainty as to what things are going to look like next year. Obviously, interest rates are incredibly low right now, which has helped facilitate the kind of ongoing demand that we have among buyers. Interest rates are just incredibly affordable right now, which is what's helping the affordability of real estate, because prices really haven't moved. In fact, if they have moved, in many instances, they've moved up. There are some areas where they've moved down just a tad here in Charleston, really more in the higher price points and in some of the luxury or second home markets. But there are some concerns that we're going to see a spike in delinquencies and foreclosure rates as we get into 2021. And I'll tell you why here in just a little bit and what that's going to look like in our market. But if you look at some of the forecasts, if you look at some of these people that put this data together, CoreLogic is one of them, and they're predicting that by this time next year, prices nationally will have fallen about 6.5%. Some other forecasters are saying, it's going to be 1%, maybe 2 or 3% between, say, October and July of next year. Who knows what the figures are? And it could be that prices go up. We're also talking about what the shape of the recovery of this market is going to look like, not just from a real estate perspective, but economically as a whole. Is it going to be that V shape? Is it going to be a U shape where, we spend a little bit more time kind of at the bottom and slowly recover? Is it going to be a check mark? Well, now they're saying it could be the flying W. A hardship followed by a recovery, followed by a hardship, followed by a recovery, as we've kind of hit this second wave of the coronavirus. So the percentage that prices fluctuate isn't what we should be focused on right now, because who in the world knows? I certainly don't. I am not an economist, and even the economists that are throwing out these numbers, it's just largely based on speculation, and it's based on something that they just can't control, which is how we respond to the coronavirus and how the economy responds and how the government responds. They can think all they want about what's going to happen. And when you talk with people in this industry that want to, kind of flex their muscle at how much they know about what's happening in the world and how that relates to your decision making when you want to go and buy and sell or invest in real estate, just please take it with a big grain of salt. And I understand the irony in that statement as somebody that's been on the radio for 8 years, been in the top 1% of agents for the past 11, and literally has a radio show to tell you about what's happening in the market. But it is worth saying that no one here has a crystal ball. So it's the percentage that the prices will fluctuate is not, in my opinion, what we should be focusing on. It should be why these things are going to happen. What is going to set those things in motion? And so if you look at the market prior to the pandemic, we had two things going on right here, or two things going on. We had a severe shortage of inventory, which we've had for years, and we've had really strong demand from buyers, and we've had that for years. And so obviously low supply plus high demand equals higher prices regardless of the market. And in the spring, we had all these major cities that just got forced into lockdown, us included, which for a lot of people put the search for a new home on pause. People pulled their homes off the market. And if you look at our market locally, and this is mirrored nationally as well in the majority of markets, just based on the seasonality of real estate. But if you were to look at a chart, and on one end is January, and on the other end is December, and you start to draw a line, you're going to draw that bell curve or that mountain, and that mountain's going to peak somewhere around June. And that represents the number of homes available for sale in the marketplace. So every year we start to see a spike in new listings in March and April and May, and to an extent June. And then as those properties that hit the market in March and April go under contract in April and May, and then close in May and June, you start to see a reduction in the number of homes for sale. It also mimics demand in our market. So you can look at stats in our market and you can see that, every year without fail, we go through this roller coaster ride, this peak and valley, this wave, if you will, where inventory spikes in June, except for this year. This year in March, which is when we start to expect properties to hit the market at a more accelerated pace, instead of those listings going up, they took a sharp dive down to the point where we now have basically 40% less inventory than we did this time last year. I mean, this time we've got under 4,000 homes available for sale. In June, we had 6,400. That's a 36% drop. So, and if you look at month supply of inventory, which takes into account the absorption rate of homes that we're putting under contract, we're down 42%, almost half in a market that was already really struggling with inventory. So that's what have kept prices high. That's why there's a lot of opportunistic sellers out there that are finally warming up to the conversation of, hey, should I sell my house right now? Is now a good time to sell? What does that look like? I'm going to answer those questions when we come back, and I'm going to continue this discussion about what this market's going to look like. What are some of the things that we need to consider, and what should you be asking yourself and professionals in this industry to help prepare you for that process? So again, if you want to speak with me about that in greater detail, just find out more about what your home is worth. Talk, with somebody about what your plans look like. How are you going to make that happen? What's the benefit to considering selling right now or buying right now? What's the drawback? Is now the right time? All those things I'd love to answer for you. Feel free to give me a call personally. My cell is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com, where you can always send an email to brian@brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Remember, if you want to reach out to my team and talk more about real estate in our neck of the woods, what's happening with your local market, what's happening with your home, what's it worth, if you consider selling it, how much time is that going to take, what does that look like? Can we find you a replacement property right now with inventory being so low? We're going to talk about that a little later on in the show, actually. How to find these properties that it just seems like they're not out there. There's very, very low inventory. Lowest it's been in about 20 years, by the way. So if those are things that you are curious about, you just want to get a better understanding of the market from a personal perspective, please give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com, or send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. So I want to continue this discussion about what's happening in the market. What are forecasters saying about what the market's going to look like this time next year? How can we use this information to make some plans? If you're thinking about buying or selling right now, obviously you want to take this information into consideration, because so many people out there, I always get the question of sellers, especially those that don't have to sell. They're going to ask that question of, hey, when's the best time to sell? Meaning, when can I get the most money for my house? Or when can I sell my house with the least amount of hassle? Or when can I sell it in the quickest amount of time for the most amount of money for the least amount of stress? Is really what people want, is, that blend of all three. And so, as I was mentioning, the inventory that we have available for sale in our market is supposed to be at its peak right now. And instead of inventory going up in April, May, and June, it went way down. And so now we're really struggling, of course, with, we've got all these folks that they get it. Okay. The coronavirus is here. It's not really going anywhere. We can still be safe. We can do what we can do to avoid it. But people are kind of tired of letting the coronavirus prevent them from doing what they want to do, kind of just in general, but especially as it relates to moving. We've got all these folks that have spent a ton of time in their homes recently, and they're realizing that, it is time for us to go ahead and find a new place, whether that's we need more space, or, what? My yard does look great right now, and the garden looks good, and all the hedges are trimmed and so on and so forth. But when we kind of get back to real life, business as usual, I'm not going to have time for any of this. And this is just too much to keep up with. And I'm tired of, either taking all this time or spending all this money to keep up with all this space. And so I need something a little more manageable. That's a lot of the people that we're talking to right now, people that are ready to start downsizing or just simplify. They just don't need all the space. And we've got a lot of people that are moving here from the Northeast, folks, and they want square footage, they want space. They're a little used to having less of it, and it costing about the same amount, slightly more than what your home is going to be worth. And so, yeah, they're going to want to be able to stretch their legs. They've been used to smaller real estate. So those, the folks that are listing it right now that, that have good square footage in your home, and that's a relative term. That could be 2,000, that could be 6,000 or more. But I'm just here to tell you that there are buyers out there for almost everything that we're putting on the market. It's incredible to watch this demand absorb the listings that we're putting on the market. I mean, our days on market so far this year is 7 days. My team are selling homes in 7 days on average. For the past several years, it's been 18, which is still really good. I mean, the market average is about 2 months, little under 2 months. So we're selling the homes a lot faster, and there's a lot that goes into that: pricing, marketing, condition, the things that we do to promote our properties. But it's also just a reflection of the demand in our market. And so why are people talking about prices going down with all of these good vibes happening in our market right now? Well, I'm going to tell you that, obviously, if you think about the market as a pendulum, and on one side is a buyer's market, and on the other side is a seller's market, and right in the middle, as that pendulum is kind of in its resting place, that's the normal balanced market. Well, obviously, that pendulum has swung all the way to the seller side of the market, more so than it has been, frankly, since I can remember. I mean, at least 20 years, more maybe. And so, how long can the pendulum stay in that state? It's unnatural for us to be in such a seller's market right now. So for the sellers that are listening, that are thinking about selling, that want to time the market, I'm here to tell you that in most instances, in the overwhelming majority of the case, it's right now. It is absolutely right now. And I won't pull any punches on that. There are people out there that if they want to sell their house and they have the ability to make living arrangements elsewhere, or if they give us enough time to help them find a replacement property, we've got all these folks out there that we're talking to. Just think about this for a second. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but think about this. We have all these people that we talk to on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis that want to do something in real estate. I mean, we get about 15 new people a day that contact our real estate team. That's why I have 17 people. I mean, obviously, I can't keep up with all of that. And so as we're having these conversations and we're learning more about what they want and what they're looking for, whether it just be information or homes, or, hey, at some point in time, I'm going to sell my house and I just want to get prepared for the process, we start to categorize all these people. And then as we get more information, as we learn more about their time frame and their motivation and what they're looking for and all those fun things, we play matchmaker. I mean, that's what a really good real estate agent does. We don't just put you in some sort of system and say, okay, great, tell me what you're looking for: bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, price range, locations. Okay, great. Hey, I'm going to set a search up for you. And then each time a new listing hits the market, it's going to send you an email. You just tell me when you see something you like, and I'll go and I'll show it to you. Basically, the agents are putting all of the work back on the shoulders of the buyers, expecting the buyers to know the difference between a really good deal and a deal that's just okay, and to understand the nuances of those properties and of those areas. People want real estate agents that are connected with the market, that are out there looking for properties for them that other agents are unwilling to do. Because you, as the buyer, you want access to the homes that no one else has access to, so that you don't have to compete with all these buyers and create these, or compete within these multiple offer situations. So think about all those people that we talk with about real estate and our ability to match you up with those people. We have a very efficient way. Hopefully, for those of you that have listened to this program, you understand that I'm a pretty systematic guy. I very much follow systems and processes, and I treat my business like a business. And so we have a very efficient and productive way of sifting through our databases to find people that want to sell a home that one of our buyers is looking for, or vice versa. So just a quick tangent there. All these folks that are thinking about selling their house, just contact us and let's see if we have somebody for you already. Save you the process of going through, preparing your home for sale and marketing the property and letting people walk in, just call us and see if we have a buyer for your house, or if we have a listing that you would consider, which might motivate you to put your home on the market. The only way we're going to get out of this thing, and I'm kind of speaking on behalf of buyers right now, but the only way to, kind of return this market to normalcy through consumer behavior is to start putting ourselves out there, to start putting our homes on the market and say, I want to move, and I'm going to put my home on the market, and I'm going to find something. Inventory has to show up somehow, some way. And that's one of the ways that we can do that. So, why are economists predicting that home prices will eventually drop? If you think about the summer boom that we've been experiencing from May until now, it is expected to cool off a little bit in the fall as all of this pent-up demand is satisfied. I mean, under different circumstances, this would kind of set the stage for a market to return toward normalcy. But supply and demand isn't the only factor at play here, and this is what I want to get to. A huge amount of federal policies enacted in March have really helped to stabilize the housing markets. I mean, without these policies, there would almost certainly have been a wave of foreclosures across the country. Not necessarily like we saw in 2008, because it's for different reasons. But, if you think about the, unemployment benefits of the CARES Act that gave anyone who lost their job some extra money to pay their mortgage, or, the forbearance options that we now have for any mortgage backed by, Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae or Ginnie Mae, which basically kept unemployed homeowners from going into foreclosure. And preventing foreclosure during a period of rapidly rising unemployment is obviously important to a housing market, because it's a sudden rush of supply that demand just would not be able to absorb. And it tends to put the market in a quote unquote free fall, kind of like what we saw in 2008, but again, for different reasons. So a lot of the structural issues in housing finance that caused the Great Recession, those just no longer exist. That's just not a thing. But a foreclosure crisis is still possible without things like the enhanced unemployment benefits and forbearance options that have been made available. So and here's the reason why people are saying that prices might go down, is because the CARES Act is due to expire July 31st. And, Congress is increasingly divided on almost all topics right now. But, obviously with regard to the benefits associated with the CARES Act and whether they're going to continue past that date or not. And so, you've got people are saying, well, I don't know. The policy component is going to be the extremely important part moving forward. We haven't seen prices fall yet, but there are going to be some signs over the next few months as to whether these policies are going to have any lasting impact on the housing market or not. And if that's going to create a downturn, if that's going to create an instance in which prices are going to go down. So, next summer is a long way away. It's a year from now. We don't really know what's going to happen, but obviously the results of the election could potentially spark a pretty dramatic change in our market and the way the federal government responds to the pandemic, and as that relates to the housing market. What I can tell you right now, though, is for the people that are considering selling, it's an excellent opportunity to essentially cash out. I mean, I can't think of a much better way of putting it. You get to cash in on all that equity that you've built over the past almost 8 years of market appreciation here in Charleston, and take advantage of the fact that inventory is borderline non-existent right now. And you get to take advantage of low interest rates when you go and you buy something else. Now, are you going to pay a pretty penny for some of these properties that you're going to buy? Yeah, you will. But the carrying cost associated with that property right now could be much better than what it looks like this time next year. Just remember that a 1% increase in mortgage rates equates to about a 12% increase in your monthly payment. So which is more likely to happen? Interest rates going up 1% or prices going down 12%? I'll let you be the judge of that. We're going to stick around for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Next, we're going to talk about finding some of those properties that are just not on the market right now, talk about preparing a home for sale, and a few other things in between. And again, if you want to reach out to me to talk about real estate, talk about your situation, just ask me some general knowledge questions, or maybe help you prepare for that plan or that move, that purchase or that move, then give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. That's my cell. Call or text that number. Or visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. We'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA.
Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. You know, I always like to take just a little bit of time and say thank you to those of you that listen to this program and rely on the information within it, and then give me a call and just ask me some questions about what you're thinking about doing, what's happening in your neck of the woods, what's your home worth? Are there homes out there that are actually available that you can buy and get a good deal on? Or do you just have to pay what the sellers are asking, and that's just kind of how the market goes? But really do appreciate those of you that reach out. I also want to say that I want to be a resource for you guys. If you need some help with doing some work to your house, or you need a good HVAC guy, or you want to refinance your property and take advantage of these really low interest rates, I'm just here to tell you that whatever you need housing related, I've got a guy for that. I got a guy. So feel free to give me a call. Happy to share their contact information. And, we do, God, I can't tell you the number of millions that we have renovated, that we have spent renovating properties, or that we have overseen as it relates to property renovations, repairs, remodeling, fixing homes up to sell. We've been involved in over 100 flips. And so we really understand all of this very well. We understand pricing really well, but we also have fantastic relationships with people that help us with that stuff. So if you need somebody, or if you want to talk about renovating your property, doing some work to it, we're going to talk in just a minute about what we can do to fix your home up for sale, because that's what so many people ask is, what should we be doing? What should I do? What should I not do? Where should I invest money? Where should I save money? And so we're going to go through some of those things in just a minute. But if you want to, reach out to me, you have questions about what to do to your house, or you just want a good contact, feel free to give me a call or text me, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or, of course, you can just go online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Now, I will say that as we go through some of these things that you can do to prepare your home for sale, and some of the decisions that you're going to want to make about repairing or renovating your home, I have put together an e-guide written by yours truly, and it's called 90 Things to Do to Prepare Your Home for Sale. And I'm just here to tell you that if you do all these 90 things and your home is priced right, and your home is in good condition, and we market the property for you, there is not a chance that this home is not going to sell. So if you want a copy of that guide, just text the word guide to 843-400-8009. Text the word guide to 843-400-8009. And again, that's for 90 things to do to prepare your home for sale. And so what are some of those things? How do we kind of go through this discovery process of what should I do and what should I not do to my house? So the first step is let's identify a budget, right? Let's discuss the targets that we want to try and hit and accomplish before we start spending a penny. Do we understand that there are going to be some things that you're going to need to repair, and it's our objective to minimize the cost of that repair? One of the ways that we do that is that when we list properties for sale that we feel is, there are going to be some items that come up on that inspection report, we will do a pre-listing home inspection. All we're doing there is identifying the issues that are likely going to be requested by the buyer, and then we are shopping the cost of how much it's going to cost us to fix that. See, the great thing about that is that you're in control of the pricing of that repair, whether you want to make the repair or not. Obviously, you're going to have to disclose that the issue exists, but the great thing is that if you come up with some sort of issue that might be really scary to a buyer, like you've got some floor joists underneath the house that are moisture damaged, that need to be replaced. Well, depending upon how seasoned the buyer is for your house, they might hear something like, oh my gosh, you're telling me that the floors could collapse? No way I'm going to buy that house. When in reality, what you could just do is sister a floor joist onto the existing floor joist, few $100, call it a day, and it's fixed. and you've got a contractor that signed off on it to say, hey, yeah, that this accomplishes the repair. It's structurally sound. Nothing else needed. So you're doing this to just provide the buyer with some peace of mind, number one. But number two, you're also doing it so that you can control the cost of that repair. If a buyer's contractor comes in and they say, oh, yeah, well, that floor joist, in order for me to sister that's going to be $2,500. For some people, he's going to charge $2,500. For other people, he might do it for $500. I mean, how much is a big old piece of lumber and then some labor? That's really what we're talking about here. And it's the inconvenience of crawling underneath the house and sistering that joist up to something else. So that's goal number one, is let's differentiate between the repairs and the remodeling, or the renovations that we want to do. Because if we're going to remodel or we're going to renovate, the only reason why that would make sense would be to create profit. Repairs, we're minimizing expense. And in doing so, we actually do create a little profit for ourselves. We get to save some money. We get to keep more of our own money, right? And that's something that we go through in detail with our clients, because that's one of the things that buyers use to really kind of beat up the seller after the home is under contract. I mean, you think about it. All these buyers are fighting over very few homes for sale. So the buyer's going to give you a really nice, attractive, shiny offer. You're going to sign it. And then once it comes to the home inspection, they're going to ask for almost everything on that inspection report. Happens almost every time. And so then you're going to have to make the decision as to what you address and what you don't address. And in some instances, call the buyer's bluff. You know, the buyers might say, hey, all this has to be fixed in order for me to move forward because I'm paying you a good price for your house. That might be the case, but you're going to weigh the pros and cons of, you know, going with this buyer's demands versus putting the property back on the market, divulging all the information that the buyer has now provided you with, and seeing if somebody else is willing to pay more for the same house. Create less hassle for you, create less cost for you, and therefore create more profit for you on the sale. I usually don't, you know, suggest people bicker over a few $100s, even in some instances a few $1,000s, because accomplishing the sale and allowing to move into something else sometimes is just worth the peace of mind, and it's just worth it not to go through the stress of having to start over again. But that's your decision. That's totally up to you. And so when we go through and we look at homes, we've talked about the pre-listing inspection, identifying the things that might need to be repaired. We're shopping those prices with contractors that we have relationships with that will save you money through the fact that we do an extreme amount of volume with them. You know, they give our clients better prices. You get kind of the good neighbor discount, if you will. And then we start to look at renovations, remodeling. You know, the question always comes up is, all right, well, are there some things that I can do to the house to create more appeal that might help it sell for more money? So, great example. I have and this is, you know, we don't sell a ton of this kind of stuff, but it's also that there's not a ton of this kind of stuff for sale. We're listing a 350-acre property that's essentially 2 miles long by a mile wide. And it's, you know, it's awesome. It'd be a great hunting property. You know, there are all kinds of different uses for it, but backs up to the water with a really cool cottage in the back with a dock and a boat ramp. And the homeowner asked me, you know, hey, what should I do to the house to fix it up and, you know, try and sell this parcel for the most money possible? And in reality, the bathrooms were dated, the kitchen was dated, the carpet was older but in good shape, all the trim was wood. It just kind of fit with the property. And so when I look at a property like that, sure, we could take out the carpeting and could put in new hardwoods. And that might accomplish something. Are we going to get our money back on that? Well, no, not really, because for a 2,500 square foot home to put in, you know, flooring that's, you know, $8 a square foot installed, or $8 a linear foot installed. Yeah, what is that? That's $20,000. Are we going to make $20,000 on the sale as a result of it now having, you know, Heart of Pine, you know, site finished hardwoods? Probably not, because they're going to look at the kitchen and the bathrooms and all the other things in the house that need to be done. And if somebody's going to renovate, they're likely going to renovate the whole thing. So most buyers are going to prefer that you leave it alone so that they can make their own design choices. So what are some of the things that you can do? Curb appeal. That is huge, especially this time of year when everything is just so awesome outside, except for the fact that it's you literally feel like you're going to melt when you walk outside. I played golf a few days ago, and I literally almost like passed out. It was that hot. I was just sweating profusely. But anyways, enough about that. When we look at properties, you want to start from the exterior and work your way in. In my opinion, it does not make sense to just do one little thing to a bathroom or change some cabinets out if you've got old countertops and old appliances. You don't want to put just lipstick on a pig, so to speak. And I'm not here to say that your home, it looks like a pig, but you get the analogy, right? You're going to start to peel back the layers of the onion as you start doing remodeling, and one thing is going to create a need to do something else, and then all of a sudden your $3,000 budget turned into a $15,000 budget. So that's what we walk through with people. And so when we talk about, all right, if we're going to do something to this property, let's look at your budget. Let's look at the programs that we have, the Renovate to Sell program that allows you to use our services, our talents, our connections, even secure some financing for the renovation, and then invest into your own property, essentially flip your own home. Instead of selling it to an investor that's going to want a discount in return for the hassle of all the work, if you take that on, you get to keep the profit. So we'll look at these different things and we'll say, well, if we did this to your property, here's how much it's going to cost, here's how much time it's going to take, and then here's what your home is going to be worth after that. And there is obviously no sense in going through all of these changes to your property and taking the time to do it if it's not going to create profit. So we look at the investment analysis of doing things to your property, whether it be something small, whether it's $1,000, $1,500, where do I spend that money? Or maybe it's $15,000, $20,000, $50,000. We've got, like I said, I've spent millions of dollars of my own money renovating properties. So we can guide you through that process. If you're thinking about fixing your home up before you put it on the market, please give us a call. Please let us have that conversation with you before you start making decisions and before you start writing checks to contractors. Let us save you some money and let us provide you with some direction. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can go to our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or send me an email, Brian with an I at brianbeattyteam.com. So Beatty is spelled Beatty, Brian at brianbeattyteam.com for the Renovate to Sell program. Or text GUIDE to 843-400-8009 to receive that guide of what to do to prepare your home for sale. Stick around, folks, for the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA.
Expert news and views on the Low Country real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. So I want to spend the last few minutes talking about buying a house. Just getting inside the shoes of a buyer, maybe somebody that's buying a home for the first time. And so I want to say that, obviously, I'm talking with people throughout the week in many different stages of life, looking at different properties all over the Tri-County area and all price ranges. And so it's really interesting to have conversations with some folks that are just, in different stages of life with different levels of experience from a real estate perspective. And one of the conversations that I'm finding just really interesting so far this year, which I wanted to spend some time on, is just the millennial market, specifically the younger millennials and people that are, at the point now where they're starting to make some good money. You got to think that the older millennial, 39 is still a millennial. So they're doing quite well for themselves at this stage in life. They've likely got a family and kids, and it's not the typical, skateboard punk that, can't get their life together that we sometimes paint a picture of as a millennial. I don't know why people think that. Well, I do, but that's not the case in many instances. But anyways, you've got all these folks that are becoming first-time home buyers, and they're asking themselves the question of, well, first of all, should I even buy right now? Is it maybe just better for me to rent? And then if I do buy, where can I go and find something right now that's reasonably priced that is going to, allow me to get into home ownership? Some of these prices have gone up and up and up for years and years and years. and I'm afraid that I might be a little priced out of the market. And so I can go and I can rent something for about the same amount of money as I would spend if I were to own the place. And maybe if I get together with a few more friends, then we can have just a better, cooler place to live, or be more convenient. And so what I'm finding is a lot of millennials aren't willing to make some sacrifices in their home search in order to be a homeowner. And I got to tell you, that's one of the reasons why our market is kind of stuck in the seller's market right now, is because a lot of first-time home buyers are they're financially uncertain. And, please, I understand that. I have empathy towards that. A lot of folks just don't know if they're going to have a job a few months from now. They don't know if they're going to get the wage increase that most people in their, late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s should be expecting, whether it be performance-based if they're self-employed or 1099, or whether it's salary, W-2 based. There's a lot of financial uncertainty. There's that word again, uncertainty. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is they just don't see the benefit to home ownership. And so you've got all these, I'm just looking around on some of these websites before I do this show, just to kind of see what's out there. What's the advice that people are receiving from some of these websites? There's a website, moneyunder30.com, essentially being a proponent for renting over buying. Saying things like, well, it's a lot easier for you to move around, and it's a lot easier for you to share the rent and get into relationships with people that can help you with the carrying costs and the maintenance. And it says right here, it's hard to sell a house. It goes through all the steps associated with selling a property. And it's saying that it's less expensive. And because a lot of people aren't entirely sure where they want to live for the long term, it's just easier for you to only have a 12-month commitment rather than purchasing a home, which it's going to take you, in most instances, 2-3 years before you appreciate enough to sell it and pay for commissions and closing costs. And so I look at some of these things, and I find it incredibly interesting that people don't realize the opportunity that's in front of them right now. And yes, we've talked about the fact that prices might come down a little bit over the course of the next year. Who knows what 2, 3, 5 years is going to look like from now? But think about this. Think about the tax deductions you get for your property taxes, for your mortgage interest. Think about the appreciation that you'll have over time. And also think about the fact that interest rates are so stupidly low right now that in many instances, it is less expensive to own rather than it is to rent. And, for the folks that are thinking, oh, well, yeah, but I can get roommates to share the cost of rent. You can do the same thing. Why not just be the homeowner and have them pay your mortgage? There's so many benefits to home ownership right now, but how do we find some of these properties that people want to sell that are just not on the market that you don't have access to? There are all these folks out there that have had conversations with agents or have had conversations among themselves that are saying, I really would like to move here in the next little while. And so let's just kind of, nonchalantly look around, look at the market, look online. If we see something that really piques our interest, well then, yeah, I think we actually might consider a move. And so the one thing that I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to reiterate this from earlier in the program, is that if you're thinking about selling or buying, when you have a conversation with a real estate agent, especially a good one, they're going to take down that information and then, I don't want this to sound impersonal, but they're going to categorize you based on what you're looking for or what you're selling, price range, location, features, amenities, so on and so forth. And then those really good real estate agents should be looking at their database saying, okay, I've got this person that wants to sell this home in 3 months. I've got this buyer that wants to buy a property like that in 3 months. If I have the ability to sift through my database and then pick up the phone and make those connections, I can facilitate a transaction, which is what a lot of people want right now. So if that's something that I can help you with, if you want to learn more about the shadow inventory that we have that might be perfect for you, or if you want to get on that list as a seller and have us bring you a buyer, then give us a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009, or visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. Thanks so much, folks, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.